Before recap, I would like to tell you something that his name is Satoru Fujinuma, and his friend name is Ko Hinazuki. As I have messed up and used their surname and their name in recap, please forgive me for this and enjoy. The story opens with Fujinuma, our main character, struggling to create a manga. He's tearing up his work, remembering how his editor told him to dig deeper and put more feeling into his drawings. At home, Fujinuma thinks about how he could have done things differently, not out of regret, but as an excuse. He feels tired of his life. We see Fujinuma working as a pizza delivery boy. There's a girl at his workplace who always jokes about him eating the pizzas he's supposed to deliver. Fujinuma notices a glowing blue butterfly, and suddenly time rewinds. He realizes something is wrong and chases after a truck. He manages to save a child from an accident but ends up getting hit by a car himself. In the hospital, we meet the pizza girl again. Her name is Katajiri. She tries to cheer Fujinuma up, but he doesn't respond well to her jokes. Katajiri tells him he seems like someone who doesn't open up easily. She's impressed that he saved a child and mentions she has a dream, which she believes in strongly. Fujinuma explains his ability to go back in time a little bit before bad things happen. He calls this power revival. When he gets home, his mother is there to take care of him. She brings up a scary incident from when Fujinuma was in 5th grade, which he doesn't remember clearly. We see a flashback of young Fujinuma with an older friend named Yuki. In this memory, Yuki tells Fujinuma about what makes a kid popular in class. He says popular kids are cheerful, good at sports, and speak their minds. Yuki encourages Fujinuma to be more like that and to have courage. Later, we learn that Yuki was accused of being a kidnapper and murderer of 2 of Fujinuma's classmates. Back in the present, Fujinuma goes shopping with his mother. He experiences another revival and they think they see a man trying to kidnap a child. Fujinuma's mother takes a photo, feeling uneasy. At home, Fujinuma researches the past incidents and remembers a girl named Ko died in that incident. He feels deep regret for not being able to save her back then. As he looks into the case more, his mother also begins to suspect that maybe Yuki wasn't the real criminal and that the true attacker might still be out there. The story takes a dark turn when Fujinuma comes home to find his mother stabbed. As she's dying, she realizes that the man who attacked her was the real culprit from years ago, not Yuki. As Fujinuma tries to help, a neighbor sees him and assumes he's the attacker. Fujinuma runs away, and just as the police are called, he experiences another revival. This time, Fujinuma finds himself back in his body as a 5th grader, standing in front of his old school. He realizes he has a chance to change the past, possibly save Ko and the other victims, and uncover the truth about what really happened all those years ago. The story continues with Fujinuma finding himself back in 1988, now in his 10-year-old body. As he enters his old classroom, he's disoriented and almost sits in the wrong seat. A classmate teases him about liking Ko Hinazuki, calling them both weirdos. Confused and stressed, Fujinuma runs out of school, hoping to find his mother. Ko notices this strange behavior. At his old apartment, he finds his childhood superhero mask and falls asleep waiting for his mom. When she returns from work, Fujinuma breaks down crying, determined not to waste this second chance. The next day, Fujinuma wonders about the purpose of this long revival. He notices a bruise on Ko's leg, raising suspicions of abuse. He starts remembering his old friends, Hiromi, Kazu, Osamu, and Kenya, the class's smartest kid. Kenya asks Fujinuma if he likes Ko. Fujinuma explains it's not love, but she's been on his mind. His friends decide to set them up. Walking home, Fujinuma asks Ko to be his friend. She calls him fake but he persists. Ko then asks if he'd kill someone for her, leaving Fujinuma stunned. Yuki is seen watching from a distance. Later, Fujinuma and his friends discuss their hideout. Kenya notices Fujinuma's odd behavior and offers support, mentioning that Ko seems important to him. At home, Fujinuma reads Ko's essay about wanting to escape to a faraway island, revealing her difficult home life with an abusive mother. Fujinuma convinces his mom to let him invite 5 friends for his birthday, planning to use this to help Ko and ultimately save his mother in the future. The next day, Fujinuma follows Ko to the park after school. He remembers thinking she was weird for spending time there, but now understands she's avoiding going home. He again asks to be her friend, explaining he can't kill for her, which she replied it was joke and then asked why he pretend to be nice. Fujinuma replied he wants to be liked by everyone. Ko suggests that pretending to be nice might eventually become real, reminding Fujinuma of Katajiri from the future. Fujinuma invites Ko to his birthday party, making her blush when he says she's the first person he's invited. As Ko leaves, she admits it's becoming easier to talk to Fujinuma. He promises himself to never let Ko be alone in the park again and vows to change the future this time. The episode continues with a skating competition between Fujinuma and Hamada, the best skater in class. The girls tease Hinazuki to wish Fujinuma luck. During the race, Fujinuma is in the lead but decides to lose on purpose. This angers Hamada, who says he hates people like Fujinuma. Fujinuma realizes he's made the same mistake again, which Kenya notices. After school, Fujinuma asks Hinazuki about her birthday. She's angry that he lost on purpose and reminds him he promised not to lie. She says it doesn't matter as they're both fake. Fujinuma checks Hinazuki's birthday in the staff room. His teacher, Yoshiro, helps him and encourages him to do his best for Ko too. At the park, Fujinuma tries to make up with Hinazuki but finds Yuki instead. At Yuki's house, they talk, and Fujinuma has flashbacks of police questioning about Yuki. Fujinuma remembers Yuki was on death row in the future but believes in his innocence. Fujinuma visits Hinazuki's house and finds her badly bruised in the shed. Her mother arrives, takes Ko away, and lies about the bruises. Inside, we see Ko's mother abusing her further. On Monday, Ko comes to school late with a visible bruise. Yoshiro and Fujinuma discuss Ko's situation. Yoshiro explains the difficulties in helping Ko through official channels. In class, lunch money goes missing. A girl named Misato blames Ko's, and money is found in Ko's bag. Fujinuma defends Ko, making Misato cry. The teacher handles the situation diplomatically. After lunch, Hinazuki thanks Fujinuma and explains her history with Misato. Fujinuma gives her gloves and takes her to see a beautiful tree on a hill, promising to return in summer. The episode ends with Yoshiro talking to someone who looks like Hinazuki's mother at the school. The episode begins with Satoru inviting his friends to visit the science center. When they decline, he asks Ko, but she says her mother won't allow it. Satoru decides to talk to Ko's mother himself. Meanwhile, Yoshiro asks to speak with Kenya privately. At Ko's house, Satoru asks her mother for permission to take Ko to the science center. When Ko's mother becomes angry and tries to slap Ko, Satoru's mother intervenes and invites Ko's mother for a chat. At the science center, Satoru and Ko have fun. While Satoru is in the bathroom, he has a strange experience where he sees Ko thanking him. He remembers coming to the center alone 18 years ago and meeting Ko there. This makes him wonder if he's following the same path as before, despite the changes he's made. His friends eventually join them at the center. On February 29, the day before the original murder, Ko comes to school early and in a good mood. After school, Satoru tries to walk her home but they meet her mother, so he leaves Ko with her. On March 1, the day of the original murder, Satoru picks up Ko early from her home. After school, they play checkers, and then he walks her home, stopping at the park where she disappeared 18 years ago in the original timeline. At midnight, he checks on her again, feeling confident he's changed history. The next day, Satoru and Ko help Yoshiro with a task, but when they return to class, all their friends are gone. Later, Satoru goes shopping and then brings Ko to his house for his birthday. They're surprised by a party with all their friends. After the party, Satoru walks Ko home, feeling happy that he's changed history. However, the next day, Satoru is late to class and hears that Ko is late too. He then remembers that in the original timeline, Ko didn't come to school after his birthday party. This realization leaves Satoru worried that despite his efforts, history might be repeating itself. Satoru races to Hinazuki's house, finding no one there but noticing adult footprints outside the shed. Meanwhile, Hinazuki's mother and her boyfriend are worried about the extent of Hinazuki's injuries, fearing they might have abused her too severely. At school, Yoshiro informs the class that Hinazuki has left for her grandmother's place. Satoru's friends try to comfort him. After 6 days, a second victim disappears. Kenya suggests to Satoru that these disappearances might be related to the serial murder case. As days pass, Hinazuki's disappearance makes the news. One day, Satoru sees Hinazuki's mother discarding a plastic bag containing knitted gloves, likely a gift from Hinazuki. Terrified, Satoru runs away screaming. Suddenly, Satoru finds himself back in the present, with police surrounding his apartment. Realizing he failed to save both his mother and Hinazuki, he flees to his manager's house. While there, he sees himself on the news and notices his manager talking to the police outside. Escaping again, Satoru is rescued by Katajiri on her bike. She takes him to her house, expressing her belief in his innocence. She informs him about Hinazuki's death on March 3, based on information from a book Satoru left at work. The next day, at Katajiri's workplace, we see Satoru's manager talking nervously to a suspicious man in black. The manager asked Katajiri to help Satoru. Later, Satoru sneaks into Katajiri's house to investigate. The manager sees this and nearly calls the police, but Katajiri stops him, reminding him of his earlier request to help Satoru. Under a bridge, Satoru asks Katajiri why she trusts him so much. She shares a story about her father being falsely accused of shoplifting, which led to his suspension and divorce. This experience makes her empathize with Satoru's situation. The episode ends dramatically with Katajiri receiving a text from Satoru's mother's phone, realizing it might be from the killer. As she opens her door, she finds her house on fire and collapses from the smoke. We see Satoru rushing to rescue Katajiri from her house. As he grabs her, she quickly slips her phone into his pocket. The manager, who is also present, asks Satoru to leave, fearing that Katajiri might be implicated. The manager then checks Katajiri's phone and realizes that the killer is using her mother's phone to make the fire incident look like an attempted murder by Satoru. Satoru decides to call the number left by his mother's old co-worker, Sawada. Sawada informs Satoru about a murder case from 18 years ago, where the suspect, Yuki, is on death row. Satoru's mother had told Sawada that Yuki was not the real murderer, and the culprit is still out there. Sawada also tells Satoru about the KO murder case, where she was locked up and froze to death. The police initially suspected KO's mother, but the evidence pointed to Yuki. However, Satoru still believes Yuki is innocent. Satoru learns that the real culprit has been manipulating the evidence to make Yuki and now Satoru the suspects. Meanwhile, Katajiri is worried about Satoru and wants to help him, but someone is lurking behind her in the hospital. As Satoru investigates the incidents, he finds a file on the computer that might contain the real killer's name. Sawada visits Katajiri's room, but her mother is in the hospital room. While Katajiri calls Satoru, asking him to meet her. She tells him that a man named Nishizona is suspicious and might try to kill her. Suddenly, the police arrive and arrest Satoru, much to Katajiri's dismay. However, Satoru is not angry, as Katajiri was the one who believed in him, which has kept him fighting. At that moment, Satoru sees a familiar figure under an umbrella, the same one he saw in the apartment staircase, and revival occurs again. We again see Satoru and KO at the science center, where they meet their other friends. Satoru has now gone back 18 years in time, and he is determined to save them all this time. At home, Satoru is crying after he sees his mother alive again. On February 29, Satoru tells Kenya that he might have lost the book Kenya gave him, but Kenya wants to talk about something else. Kenya told him that he never gives him a book at first place. He says that he noticed Satoru's personality has changed, especially when he is around KO, and he also told that he also noticed bruises on her KO's body. Kenya asks Satoru who he really is. Satoru then tells Kenya about Hinazuki's murder, and Kenya asks if he can help. Satoru agreed. After school, Satoru goes to meet Yuki, who is happy to hear that KO is now part of their group. Satoru realizes that the real killer might have seen Yuki meeting KO and thus framed him. On March 1st, during their birthday celebration, Satoru leaves to throw a stone at Yuki's father's room, knowing that the police will then serve Yuki's father. Satoru then follows KO's mother, intending to push her down the stairs to prevent KO's death, but Kenya stops him, as it would only complicate things further. Satoru asks Kenya for help in getting the police to stop Hinazuki's mother from abusing her. Kenya is initially hesitant, but Satoru convinces him that it's better than letting KO die. Satoru then goes to pick up KO, telling her that he's going to kidnap her. She agrees to go with him, and Satoru takes her to an old school bus, where Kenya has prepared a place for her to stay. At night, Satoru tries to secretly visit KO with food, but his mother notices him leaving. Satoru gives KO the food and invites her to a camping trip. The next day, KO is absent from school, as she is hiding in the bus. Meanwhile, Yoshiro is seen contacting someone on the phone. That night, Satoru and his friends visit KO, and KO suggests that they tell the authorities that it was her plan, and they were only helping her, to avoid any problems. After they leave, someone is seen entering the bus. KO notices that the person who entered the bus is not Satoru. She tries to remain calm as the man kicks the door, but he leaves. The next day, Satoru visits KO again with a lunch, prepared by Satoru's mother, without making it obvious for KO, as she already knows about KO's hiding. At school, Yoshiro is worried as KO is not attending classes. Satoru asks Yoshiro to act and call the child welfare to help KO, but Yoshiro informs him that he has already done so. In the evening, the child welfare and Yoshiro visit KO's house, but her mother is not there. Yoshiro notices the fresh food and concludes that she might have left after hearing the bell. The child welfare then mentions that they will take Keo into their custody. Satoru tells Keo about the child welfare's plan to separate her from her mother. Keo then gifts Satoru the knitted gloves she had been preparing. She asks Satoru to stay with her at night, as someone had come the previous night. They open the bag left by the man, and it is filled with items that could be used for kidnapping. Satoru instantly recognizes the items and realizes that they are still trapped in the kidnapping loop, and the other girl might have already been kidnapped by killer. He notices that the boots are the same size as Yuki's, and decides to leave the bus with Keo. Kenya agrees with Satoru's decision. Satoru takes Keo to his house, and his mother knows that he is doing this to protect his friend. She praises them and has already prepared curry for everyone. Satoru's mother then calls Yoshiro and asks him to meet her the next day. Yoshiro agrees and requests a favor from Satoru's mother. The next day, Keo's angry mother hears the doorbell and opens the door to find Keo there. She is about to beat Keo, but Satoru and his mother are also present. Keo's mother attacks Satoru's mother with a shovel, but she only sustains a minor scratch. The child welfare people and Yoshiro then arrive, as it was all a setup to trap Keo's mother. They tell her that they will be taking Keo's custody. Keo's mother threatens to call the police on Satoru and his mother for kidnapping her daughter. However, Yoshiro has brought Keo's grandmother, who apologizes for leaving Keo alone after her abusive husband beat her. Keo's grandmother tells her that she will be taking Keo's custody. Keo's mother starts to cry after the grandmother's apology. Yoshiro then drives Keo and her grandmother to their new home. At school, Satoru is saddened to see Keo leave, but Yoshiro calls him and tells him that Keo is starting a new life with her grandmother. Satoru thanks Yoshiro for not letting his courage go in vain, and Yoshiro says he will offer Satoru a reward. Yoshiro asks Satoru where he was hiding Keo, and Satoru tells him about the bus, which Yoshiro finds amusing, as a kidnapper would only choose such a place. Satoru's new objectives are to save his friend Hiromi and a girl from another school, Nakanishi Aya, whom he doesn't know. He asks his mother for advice on how to befriend someone he doesn't know, and she tells him to simply ask them to be his friend. Satoru follows Aya and realizes that her routine makes her an easy target for the kidnapper. When his mother asks him to carry groceries, Yoshiro offers to drop them home, and Satoru asks him for advice on how to approach a girl he doesn't know. Yoshiro tells him to showcase his good side to impress her and make her let her guard down. At school, Satoru asks Hiromi if he can drop her, but Kenya wants to talk to Satoru privately. Kenya asks Satoru what is bothering him now that they have saved Keo, and Satoru says he can't explain it, but Kenya expresses his desire to be a superhero like Satoru. They visit the bus again and find that the bag is missing, and Satoru tells them that the man who took the bag is likely the one who murdered the children. He then explains everything about Keo's situation to them. Kenya says he can't fully believe Satoru's story, but he trusts him and Hiromi. The next day, Satoru asks Kenya and Hiromi to go somewhere with him, declining their other friends, and they decide to follow him. Satoru, Kenya, and Hiromi meet Aya, who seems uninterested in their superhero childhood and hideout. However, Kazu comes and invites Aya to their hideout, and the next day she does come. Kazu and Aya get along well, and Kazu starts picking her up. Hiromi thanks Kenya and Satoru for helping him. At the hideout, Satoru thinks he has saved Keo, Hiromi, and Aya, and they should no longer be targets. But Kenya asks if it's really over, which Satoru replied no. At night, Satoru realizes the killer must be someone his mother knows. On his way home, Hiromi tells Satoru that Misato has been alone since the money incident, so Satoru decides to talk to her on Monday. However, Misato gets away on the bus, and Kenya tells Satoru that she might have gone to cheer for Hamada's match, as Yoshiro had invited her. Satoru goes to the match and sees Misato alone, thinking she could be an ideal target for the kidnapper. He follows her, but she doesn't come out of the bathroom. Yoshiro is there too, and Satoru sees a truck and thinks the kidnapper might have taken Misato in the truck. Satoru asks Yoshiro for help. Yoshiro asks Satoru to wear seatbelt as he is going to speed up the car, and then suddenly the surrounding becomes serious. Satoru realizes this is not Yoshiro's car. Yoshiro tells Satoru that he had used Misato as bait to see if Satoru was his enemy who was foiling his plan. Yoshiro admits that he had planned to kidnap Aya, but Satoru had foiled his plan. Yoshiro stops the car in the snow and tells Satoru that he admires him for foiling his plans, as if he had seen the future. Yoshiro then pushes the car into the river, but before that, Satoru tells Yoshiro that he has seen Yoshiro's future. As the car sinks, Satoru's life flashes before his eyes, and he realizes the gravity of the situation he's in. Yoshiro tells Satoru about his past, how he had taken in some hamsters and let them drown, except one who survived that he named Spice. Yoshiro had read a story about a sinner who killed people whom a threat appear. Yoshiro then told that when he met Satoru, he also found a threat on him, he tries to kill him. But he survived, so he decided to observe him. Years have passed, and Satoru's mother is now spending most of her time alone. We then learn that 15 years have passed, and Satoru was in a coma. When he wakes up, the doctor asks if he remembers what happened before the coma, but Satoru's memories are blurred. Satoru meets his old friends Kenya and Hiromi, and realizes his mother doesn't want him to remember the past. He agrees to go along with this, as his mother has been waiting for him to wake up. Satoru then sees Ko. He started to cry as she is now married to Hiromi and has a baby. At this scene even I felt bad for my boy Satoru. BTW, Ko thanks Satoru for helping her and now she have this beautiful family. In the hospital, Satoru meets a girl named Kumi who is scared for her upcoming surgery, and Satoru decides to motivate her. At that moment, a man dressed in black approaches them. It's Yoshiro, who has changed his name after getting married. Yoshiro tells Satoru that he has been visiting him for the past 15 years. Satoru continues to progress and spend time with Kumi. One day before her surgery, Satoru was going to wish Kumi luck, but Yoshiro told him that Kumi has fallen asleep, and suggests they talk somewhere else to avoid paparazzi. Yoshiro takes Satoru to the roof, where Satoru confronts Yoshiro, saying he has regained his memories. After meeting Hinazuki, Satoru regains his memories. He meets his friend Kenya, who knows Satoru has regained his memories and asks if he's going to fight again. Satoru agrees and tells them the killer is Yoshiro. On the rooftop, Yoshiro knows Satoru is recording their conversation on a cell phone. Yoshiro tells Satoru that he has tampered with Kumi's surgery drip, replacing it with a muscle relaxant, and that Satoru will be suspected of the attempted murder. Satoru tells Yoshiro how he filled the void in Yoshiro's life after his father left. Yoshiro too told him that he waited for him for years, but then Yoshiro says the game is over now, but Satoru tells him that he has won by foiling Yoshiro's plans and saving the people connected to him, including himself. When Yoshiro threatens to kill Satoru, Satoru suddenly pushes Yoshiro away using a wheelchair, then he rushed to jump from building. But Yoshiro saves him, as he can't let Satoru die since he is Yoshiro's hope. Satoru tells Yoshiro that being around him makes Yoshiro feel alive, as Satoru is the only one who knows the real Yoshiro. Yoshiro starts crying, realizing Satoru is right. The wheelchair slips out of Yoshiro's hand. After that, Yoshiro was about to jump as his hope died, but he then sees Satoru is safe because of his friends. Yoshiro then sees a thread appear and break on his own head, and afterwards he got arrested for attempted murder. In the end, we see that Satoru becomes a respected and famous manga artist, whose manga gets an anime adaptation. He meets his happy friends, including Yuki. Satoru sees the blue butterfly again, but it's not a revival this time. He then sees Katajiri, and this is where the anime ends. Tell me whom you like more, Ko or Katajiri. I personally like her as she believed in Satoru, and also unlike someone she doesn't bring her child whose father is his childhood friend. Peace.